5% of people that takes their loss, licks their wounds, and comes back and keeps doing it for the passion of it, they're the ones that are going to be that 5% of traders to succeed.
And trading, I think, is all really just reminded me of that. Like, it's not just about trading my losses and tradings, but so on in life. Just looking back and like, okay, I could have handled that a little bit differently.
Fuck 2020, the hashtag. All right, let's start over.
What's up, Wes?
Hey, what's
Welcome
up,
to
man?
2021 and fuck 2020.
That's definitely the hashtag. Yeah, rather uneventful, but
So
we're through
uneventful.
We're through it.
Yeah, we are. Thank fucking God, man. In all honesty, dude, not to like rub it in on everybody, but it was a pretty good year for me, man.
Yeah.
Definitely was freaking out. I will say, was like, what the fuck? But overall, in a weird way, I came out better than
Yeah.
So I have a dry erase board. I do the whole, my whole financial freedom plan for the year. And I was looking back at some of that stuff. Pretty much all got destroyed. It's like, what the fuck you buy a planner for in 2020? Like, I'm sure that the sales probably went down on that. But, regardless of it all, looking back on it was interesting to see what I had wanted to do versus what actually came out of it. And holy shit, man. I know everybody else's stuff wasn't necessarily like that, so I don't want to necessarily rub it in. It's been hard on some people, but for me, it's tied into trading. Trading really makes you have a hard look at yourself if you choose to, if you're open and you're humble enough to allow trading to let you take a deeper look inside of yourself, because it is a one-man sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that you're not trading the market; you're trading yourself.
Yes, there you go. So, and then here we are, 2020, in a way, was kind of like trading myself.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely some moments there where I was like, holy cow. But to bounce back even better, a lot of changes in my life, from career to trading and all the above. I had probably one of the best paid vacations I've ever had unexpectedly in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, man. How about you, Wes?
Oh man, I mean, 2020. I know it's been like my best year.
I feel like you're always on a paid vacation, but
well, somebody asked me on one of the comments this week. Like how much. They actually asked a question that kind of peeved me a little bit. It was like, what's the minimum amount of time that I need to put in a day to be a good trader? And I was like, well, what's the minimum amount of time you put into anything to be successful? But most of the time is sitting around waiting for opportunities. And there was a lot of exercises and patience there because, part of the year was really, really weird. From years past, the summers are typically dead.
yeah.
But this past summer, it was really, really bullish. I remember in particular that Monday after there were a bunch of riots that weekend. It was around about June. America was on fire, and the stock market opened up like 2, 3, 4, 5%.
Yeah.
I said to folks, close your eyes and buy because the bull market discounts all bad news. And I really think that's what people should be looking for going into this one, is look for not the news to drive things like the recent reasons that the market's been going to just in this week has been the election. But, Monday it was like, oh, the Democrats are going to win. Then today the market's forget all that. Look for major events and what the market does in relation to it. And right now there's no clear sign. I haven't taken a trade yet. And I'll be happy if I don't take one all quarter. I don't want to do that, but
Okay. Not even if some really good pullbacks.
Well, I do my scans every day, and I'm just really patient because quarter one I know it's typically been my worst quarter. So I'm like old man in the bathwater, just kind of letting it play out. So yeah, what's your plan for starting out this year?
I definitely learned a lot. My retirement account has done really well. Mainly because I can just put it on and forget about it and not mess with it. So
yeah, that's important.
So I want to work on that to some degree because clearly it's all about the psychology, right? And again, trading without emotions by being able to put on some of these long-term trades during some major pullbacks and taking care of that and then just kind of forgetting about it with my day-to-day life, moving on and then looking back, after a couple weeks go by and you're like, oh, cool. You know what I mean? Like, just let them keep riding. And it's done exactly that. The last quarter was really good. As far as day trading goes, um, I definitely want to redefine some things, and you saw my little office, get on my dry erase
Oh
board,
yeah,
and
that's good.
and just really discipline, man. Day trading, man. I love it. It's not. I've realized it's not what I originally thought it was going to be, but at the same time, you know, that really is what makes me take a deep look at myself and see where a lot of my weaknesses are, and it just keeps coming back to discipline, dude. Um, I've been listening to this new book too, and he kind of basically confirms what I already know. Just all the emotional traders, people getting in, revenge trading after they take a few losses, things like that. And I'm looking back at some of my losses I've had this year because I certainly would have been up. I felt like I had a lot of right calls. But when, maybe I couldn't take a pullback or I got out, regardless of the situation, I made a lot of errors just based off emotion and not a business plan.
Mm.
So some of my biggest losses were based on me just not sticking to the rules. And
What's the one rule you think would have helped you, just to simplify it down?
stick to the business plan.
That's very broad.
Okay.
Like the plan. Like what's the one thing? Not out of all of them, but what's a common thing that you did or did not do that you think attributed to your losses?
Um, Walk away when you're winning.
Mm. Yo, a lot of people have a lot of problem with that.
Yeah, you're not going to keep winning. You know what I mean? Like I would get into scenarios where I'd find my groove, especially week after week. There was like, especially with the S&P 500, that's like my favorite to trade. And I would find myself starting off on Sundays doing really well, and then find myself on Mondays giving it right back.
Sunday evening?
Yeah. As soon as the market opens,
Hmm.
you get some movements. I would take a couple of the smaller time frame trades, capture some wins, and then the next morning I'd be high off of those wins, and I'd keep trading, and then it just, I end up giving it back. So,
Well, what's my worst day?
I thought it was Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I know that from looking at
Hump day.
logs and
Yeah.
stuff. Sounds like you're onto something there.
Yeah, definitely. And that's that just comes back to knowing yourself, man. Really keeping a journal and a track record. That's another thing I want to work on too. Is just in a lot of ways. I know it sounds crazy, but I've been getting into dream journals too. I used to do that at one time. And just
Does that help you like remember your dreams better when you like journal?
yeah, if you can get them down. Even now, what I didn't have before readily available. The beauty of the phone is even if I can't write it, just record it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like fuck the book. You can come back to the book later, but just get that phone out, get the voicemail, get the voice memo, and record it and try to capture it as much as you can, because the more and more I get into this, the more and more I can understand myself and the psyche and all that stuff. I just feel like it just really helps you out overall as a person, and that's only going to help you out in everything, not just trading, but just in life in general, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know how feng shui I like to be and objective and kind of like the middleman in the room that keeps the peace.
Yeah.
So I need to also do that with myself because I think I got a really good poker face and I got a lot of conflict on the inside.
You are very
So-
hard to read sometimes.
Yeah, I definitely got a great poker face.
Yeah.
I think I don't know where it's all come from, but deep down inside, I deal with like anxiety and shit that just bugs me and nags me. But at the same time, I hate letting that surface because I don't want to project out on anybody because I think it's unfair. I hate it when people do that to me. It's like it's not my fault. You got that issue that you got this nagging
Oh,
problem.
like when I put it on you?
With anybody, just
Yeah.
like come on, man. I work in the service industry. People come in and they're just like have these OCD problems or things that bother them, and I'm like, is it really that big of an issue to make, because it's all about what you say, how you say it, things like that too. People react and you're like, I could feel you on that, but you didn't have to say it like that, and so on. So to me, there's that battle of trying to not let that energy project onto somebody else because I'm letting something nag me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that poker face comes from, because on the inside, I'm just, I mean, I even had a moment there not too long ago where I broke down in my job and I had a bad day and I snapped on people and I was so mad at myself, man. But I came back in and people were just like giving me a hard time about it. I was like, you know what? Fuck you, man. Like, y'all come in here every day with y'all's attitudes, your tempers, all that shit. Y'all
I
bring the
want to get
weather in.
mad.
And they come in and I said, man, I've been here for 90 days and I had one bad day. Try to have a record like that, asshole. You know what I mean? Just back off. You know what I mean? I'm allowed. I'm not proud of it. Sorry. I'll make my apologies. It's not like you guys come and apologize to me the next day for your shit. I'll own up to it and I'll keep trucking, man. So, again, that's part of being a leader and leading by example and setting the bar. I've always believed in that, man. I just let people know, man. I will run circles around you to prove my point. I will never ask you to do something I won't do for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I also probably feel like I probably do it better than you anyway. Kitchen's the only area where I'm kind of like, but I'm getting a lot of kitchen experience too, man. I've been working on my cooking, dude. Got that breakfast game down.
Good.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I got a little off sidetrack there. I honestly, I want to hear how you've been doing, dude, because you have actually been experimenting with some new indicators that you've created. I got to give you that, man. I'm more of like, I'll play with the toys, and you actually are creating the toys. And now that you've had time to play with some of that, man, what's your kind of looking back on all that?
I spent a lot of time working on a combination of breakouts, and I traded it, and it ended up being just total dog shit.
Damn.
Just either it wasn't the right time of the market, or I didn't actually have something there. But I'm always looking for something else. But
so how does that feel to be working on something, to spend so much time on something? Because I know you too. You're probably doing some coding too, right?
yeah, coding
And
the
that's
trading
not
thing,
easy, dude. That's tedious. Needle in the haystack. A lot of attention to detail, and then to just not get any results from it.
I look at it like any other business. Like it's like a business venture that just doesn't work out. Because trying to approach the market in a different way with a different strategy, I obviously had like the hypothesis going in that, okay, this should work. And then I'll go through and I'll observe instances where it works. I'll even print them out and try to replicate them. But the problem of the market is you're really trying to model chaos when it comes to technical analysis. And the price action is what I study, and nothing's ever the same twice. And you never know, is my strategy wrong? Is it the wrong time of the market? Do I just throw it in the trash? Do I try to modify it? And it's just a constant feedback. And whenever something's not working, it's hard, especially when you put a couple of months into it, to like take a step back and say, okay, this isn't working. And I gotta be honest with you, I got a little bit of trepidation going into this year, because last year was so crazy. I don't know if it's the years making me an old, risk-averse, crotchety fart, or if it's a true sense of emotion. But I know it's pretty accurate to say that 2021 is going to be different from 2020. And
you don't think it's going to be business as usual, or do you think we'll see some repercussions? I mean, it's so.
Well, the beauty of trading is you don't know, or the beauty of the market. The reason I like it is because you don't know, but that we will have a huge run from a big crash up to all-time highs is not guaranteed. That's the thing. It was just so bullish.
That's essentially what happened. I mean, it was like it was one of those moments where it really showed how emotional everything can get, and I think that kind of tied into a lot of longer lessons that I feel like I wanted to learn was what was your threshold of pain, and then at the same time realizing in the end it's going to be okay,
Well, I hit that time around the election. I had it in my gut that I shouldn't be trading around it, but I got bored from not taking a trade for a whole month.
Wow.
And I jumped in and took about a 12% drawdown, but by year's end, I had made it back.
So was that 12%, like, how'd that make you feel, stomach pain?
Shitty.
Yeah.
It made me feel like a fool because part of it was ego, part of it was bad habits. I've been forgiven for letting things go about to my stop level, and then they would be forgiving and come back and go into profit. And so that happened in a different market condition. And instead of taking a 1R loss, I took twos and threes. And,
Did you move your stops?
well, yeah, of
Yeah.
course, because I had been forgiven in this crazy bullish year. And I don't think people, if you were successful in 2020, like actively trading, I don't know if you just started this year, if you're going to make it, because I don't think that we're going to have, clearly not the same year, but if we have, say, a slow year or a bearish year, people are going to give it all back. And I'm not quite as concerned for myself because I feel like as long as I stay good with my rules and good with my risk, that even if the market does turn against me and I take some losses, I'm not going to give it all back. But I think that a lot of people built up a lot of bad habits in 2020. And that's what I worry about for them, is because it was very forgiving.
Yeah.
There was a lot of bullish momentum. You really didn't have to work
There's a lot
that
of money
hard.
to be made, a
Yeah.
lot of volatility, and I think that's entices people, gives them the false sense of reality of what to expect. You got all the new Robinhood traders who came into the market this year. CNBC was baffled why the market was rallying, and then they were like, it must be all these new traders. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're just buying to buy. They're not even buying on research or information. Tesla's popular, let's buy, let's all pile in. Bitcoin's popular, let's buy, let's all pile in. And it's just, again, looking back, you're right. Like some of these people are going to get a false sense of what they think it is and get eaten up. And then the people who've been around are just like waiting for those people to do exactly that and take these pullbacks, once that market does do that and collapses. And,
Everybody keeps saying that. Everybody, that's just, your second person
no,
today
let me-
says
let me- let me
talked
s-
about the stock market collapse.
Let,
Like,
okay, let me because I don't mean collapsing like doomsday. I don't. I've given up on that whole aspect and just think the
well, then
market's
it's going to
going to
happen
do
if you
its.
give up on it.
Well, cool. You know what I mean? Like I think what I have learned is I don't care anymore about all that stuff. Is that moving forward? This book. Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank of what I've been listening to. Dr. Alexander Elder, something, living as a trader, becoming a trader. Anyway,
Sounds like somebody.
I ended up ordering the book. I've been listening to an audio book, and I ended up ordering it because I want to go through now and just kind of like highlight. And it's just really, totally reiterating everything that Manesh and anybody else that's trading, has taught us. That just having a business plan, understand risk versus reward. He was talking about only risking 2% of your account, and I was like, you know what, cool. So I factored in what my 2% was, and I was like, all right, well that clearly defines what time frames I'm trading now, and I'm only going to do that, and if I just stick to that business plan, don't move your stops, don't pile on trades, just everything we've already know, that we keep making mistakes on it. But it's weird somehow to like hear that. It's almost like timing. It was like what I needed to hear at the end of the year with, looking back at all my trades and my losses and things like that. And it's like, all right, screw all that other stuff, man. Stick to this business plan. Stick to that 2%. Don't move my losses unless I'm capturing profit, right? Don't change the business plan of the entry and the exit, and just do that much.
Yeah.
So
I got you. Did I hear a doorbell?
you did. It's probably somebody trying to talk to me about voting.
Oh, yeah, it is that
They're
time.
walking
Okay,
around.
okay.
I've already voted this year. Did you vote?
Yeah, I did.
I did too. So I played my part. It's private who we voted for, but it's apparently public knowledge that we voted. And I just want y'all to know I did that twice. And thank you all early voters because I went today. Not that I'm procrastinating, but just honestly, it just timed up that way with work. And
Was it busy?
Hell no, there wasn't even no line. No, the ballots weren't even all full, and we got through it, and I'm good. I'm done, and I'm ready for it to move on. And honestly, I hate politics. I think it's just a bunch of crap.
Yeah,
so.
we in Georgia, we have to endure it just a little bit longer. And now it's going to be over after this.
Yeah, and maybe we can move forward too with See what how the markets react to it. I personally don't think the markets
I don't think
care.
it cares.
Yeah, I
No,
do. I
I
either.
really went yesterday
Be
and
interesting to
today.
see if we get this stimulus check. Did you get any stimulus money? I got my little 600.
I think I got to check my mail at my old house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to go back to what you were saying though about this new plan that you're putting together. You're also going to be very very busy, and a lot of people that I talk to, they have full time jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and one of the big mistakes I think they run into is they feel like okay, I've got Tuesday off. Today I'm going to trade,
Mm-hmm.
and that really messes them up. So now that you've got this plan together and you're super busy, how are you going to square that circle
Yeah.
of your trading plan and your
So
schedule?
the retirement account really helps out because it helps me know that I got something, that I'm in a trade or I'm trading. Um, and it allows me to go to work and like I'm still accomplishing something in the market because I still got stuff in the market, right? Now, as far as having the day off and trading, I'm that's not that big of a deal to me because honestly, I only really stay up with as far as like day trading, right? I only really stay up with S&P 500. It's just simple.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I still look at currency sometimes, but it's now I'm in like so I have the retirement's more long term. I'm looking at like weekly, monthly, sometimes dailies, right? Currencies I'll look at like 4 hours and I'll set alerts and have email alerts sent to me and I'll look at them if they're there. But as far as like the day trading every day, the S&P's right there. I just every morning I get up, every night I'm constantly setting alerts. I'm looking for levels. If I'm at work, and I see it, I can pull aside, look at my trading view app, pull up my Thinkorswim, put it on if it's there. It's not,
So you're
whatever.
setting some alerts for some signals and
Yeah,
stuff
and
like
it
that?
helps to just only focus, like be focused on one thing and be
Mm-hmm.
really familiar with it. And you almost like build this relationship with it.
Yeah,
You
everything has
know?
its own personality.
Yeah, so being able to have like those kind of three parameters where I got the retirement, I look at currencies for swing, and then just the day trading is it's just that S&P, and I just watch it, and it's there, and I know my alerts, and I know, when they go off, what's happening, and that really helps out a lot, because then I can go to work and dial in and kind of get lost into work, and some time will go by. And I'm like, man, no alerts have happened. What's going on? Did I forget to set alert? Oh, and the market's just ain't doing shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then other times it's like going off right in the middle when I'm in the weeds and I got everything going. I'm like, oh, of course, you know. But again, too, you try not to react and just let things kind of settle and just go from there. I mean, it only takes a second to run in the bathroom and say you need to piss real quick, set on a new alert or whatever, and do and come back in. So, but yeah, man, just I think everybody should just find your routine and what works for you and get into it, man. I mean, what do you got your routine, right?
Yeah.
Clearly, you don't trade on Wednesdays.
No, I look, and I've had some winners on Wednesdays, but I've just had more losers.
Okay.
That's what's up. But every morning I do my thing, and that's what's working for me, so I won't stop. But I'm always looking for something else to do, and that's where a lot of my research goes into. Like, a lot of people have been asking me about how to like trade cryptocurrency because they want to buy dips. So
yeah, good old crypto.
yeah, well, it's bullish. It is what it is.
Are you still in that?
I don't trade cryptocurrencies.
So you've gotten rid of all your Bitcoin.
Well, I just don't trade cryptocurrencies
Okay, but
because
Wes,
that's
we all know, Wes, you had
well,
Bitcoin
I
at
talk
once
about
upon a time.
I talk about cryptocurrencies, but as an American,
Do you feel left out?
I don't trade cryptocurrencies.
So you don't feel left out?
No, I don't.
So it's
I
amazing
become
that people are piling into something that really is backed by what?
so somebody asked me, like why I was bearish on it, and I'm a contrarian, and it's my job to say no. It really is. And honestly, like to go on a little rant here, I'm really I don't want to be in the same trade as some people. And the reason for that is because the original intention of cryptocurrency was to have a money system outside of government and corporate control. And now PayPal was recently they allowed people to buy and sell cryptocurrency, but you can't transfer it off the platform.
So it just becomes digital currency within PayPal.
It's a bucket shop. It's speculative. It defeats the whole purpose of Bitcoin if you can't own it yourself? And it's just, in my mind, it's peak normie.
Mm-hmm.
That, people, they want to play around with this speculative asset, but they want nothing to do with the original intention of it. It's the whole purpose has been lost. The thread has been lost, and I'm not really bullish on it because what's the point?
Well, I just a personal theory. Okay. I think it's a precursor to what will ultimately roll out to be one or a few different major currencies rolled out by central banks.
Okay, then what was the
Right.
point of cryptocurrency?
Well,
See, I'm going back. I'm going back to the original. Hold on.
so
I'm
I
going
know
back to
what
the
your
original
original,
intention
right?
of Satoshi Nakamoto.
But I think
The
people are
reason
going
he
to
made it.
piggyback off it, right? Because you need what we're going to find out is eventually the dollar can only sustain so long off the gold standard. So you need to reinvent the gold standard. And I think crypto blockchain is the dupe they're going to pull over people's eyes to the new gold currency, the
I
new
don't think
gold standard, right?
I disagree. I don't think you need to.
So if we were to roll out with a scenario where hyperinflation, the dollar, we got to save the dollar. They come out with this new crypto that, crypto dollar that's backed by the government. It can't, it can't,
Careful hitting that.
sorry, it can't devalue itself because it's a blockchain, so on.
Why do we need that though? Why is that important?
Because you need stability.
Who
You need people
who
to feel
needs
they're
it?
stable. All these idiots out here who don't know any better anyway.
Let me throw something out to you. Like maybe this is
It's all a
just me
scam
contrarian.
anyway. They're all a scam to make money off of us at the
So
end of the day,
we, as of October, we had printed, what was it, like 25% of all the dollars in circulation just this year, and that's probably
Yeah.
gone up even more. If you look at the money supply, it's like a hockey stick. And I bet this wine probably cost about the same as it did at the beginning of 2020. That's amazing.
Amazing.
It is. It is. And I don't know how to explain that except we look at this situation that we're in, printing money,
So
and
maybe
we're
that's
like,
what 2021 is going to be about, is the
it could be.
milk prices going up.
That's what everyone's looking for, but it's not happening. So either we've hit onto a new normal, which is a dangerous thing to talk about, or we're actually increasing productivity to match with our inflation.
Hmm.
I don't believe that, but I can't really. I'm having a hard time coming up with a reason for why we're printing all this money. The reality is, all this money that we're printing, it doesn't go to people. I mean, we get our stimulus checks, but that's a paltry amount. It doesn't really change. It changes people's lives that day, but it doesn't really change their lives. The big money, the trillions of dollars, is going to the banks.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to the haves, if you will. And it really just goes into
And that's where
their
that
wealth.
fractional loan starts to kick in.
Well, it's just that's why we see this stratification between the very, very rich and the not so rich, is because all this money that's being printed is going to them. They are becoming wealthy beyond any imagination.
And they pick and choose who gets it based off credit scores and so on, and
Well,
relationships.
let's not think so conspiratorial about it. I mean, it just kind of sits with them. They become, we're going to have a trillionaire in Jeff Bezos or somebody here in a few years. But people can still eat. And I know that's a very low bar to set, but at the same time, things are continuing to work. And I don't know how long it's going to go till we hit another crisis, but people were damn sure that COVID was going to be that straw that broke the camel's back. And here we sit, pretty okay. And I don't really have an explanation for it. I don't know how long it's going to go on. But, it's modern monetary theory. I'm not a believer in it. I don't think it's moral. But it still just keeps working. And so, like, this whole idea that we have to have some, stability, I mean, maybe we do, maybe we don't. Because, when I've studied history of hyperinflation, the Weimar Republic, Germany, the people that actually produce goods were okay for most of the time. Because things that people make still have value. And that's the argument I've had with people trying to, like, pull their money out of the stock market as it's been, when it crashed and everything. It's like, oh, we're going to have inflation and the economy's going to end and I need gold to buy food. I was like, okay, maybe.
Yeah.
but also the companies that are positioned to produce goods and services that people want to buy are going to be able to raise their prices. If you want to pick stocks that are going to be good in this hyperinflation, if you want to put your wealth somewhere, you need to find companies that are, and here I am talking about fundamental investing. You need to find companies that are able to benefit from increasing prices, the ones that can raise their prices. Um, I think that that's part of the reason why retail is doing well, because they'll be able to charge more because people still want to buy crap.
Well, they can get it all online too. I think that
Yeah,
really
I mean that's another thing. I mean think about again
direct to consumer.
it goes back when Pets.com was doing their thing back in the .com, the more things they sold, the less money they made because of transportation costs. But now Amazon has its whole network built out. It's able to deliver things very efficiently. And so the cost of everything is going down because they're competing with everybody to make consumer goods better. Things are being made cheaper. And yet we keep printing more money. So it kind of just, kind of works. Um, Now I say that now, and here in a couple of months, everything could crash and, we don't have internet anymore to release podcasts. But I don't really have an answer for it, but I'm really the prevailing sentiment is that things are going to end in disaster tomorrow, and as a contrarian, it's my job to say no. And so, if they're bring it back to Bitcoin, a lot of people doubted it. A lot of people are buying it now. Why didn't you buy it when it was 5,000? Well, now it's like, oh, it's going up, so it must go up more. We'll get into that idiot philosophy if we need to, but you don't doubt it. Like I'm not going to say Bitcoin's going to top out here because you don't doubt it. I mean, it could probably go over 100. I'll say my plan was to wait for it to break the all-time high, close above it, and right around the New Year's, I was partying, and up to 34, I was like, all right, well, yep, definitely closed above the all-time high. That is a confirmation. That is a close of the bar confirmation. So you just don't doubt it.
Yeah.
You just, and so that goes with the stock market too, and also this modern monetary theory that we're in. Just you just roll with it.
Bitcoin and Tesla, stock up.
Oh, Tesla's making all-time high. My friend, I got a friend of mine that sent me.
Puts all those other guys to shame, man.
I got a friend of mine that sent me this thing. It showed basically the valuation of Tesla, which is larger than every other car company in the world. And then it showed the actual dollar value of deliveries, like actual cars that are sold in a year. And you got like Tesla right here, and you got like the world right here. And so there's a big disconnect. And I know that infographic was made last week because he sent it to me last week. And then it made all-time highs this week. He asked me a couple of weeks ago, hey, are you shorting Tesla? I was like, nope. Like, I'm not going to bet against Elon. I'm not going to bet against, like, crazy.
Yeah.
It's that whole saying, the market.
It's popular, man. And Bitcoin's popular. Tesla's popular.
Yeah.
Tiger King was popular during COVID. Like, it's just like people just jump on these bandwagons and just run with it. And there's no sense. The Robinhood traders propping up the market during COVID. And things are just so not normal. Or probably driving textbook, economics teachers wild right
They're
now.
going crazy. And do you want to know something I'm going to
They're not following the rules.
do you know what has completely lost any efficacy in the market? I mean, I've been listening to a lot of Peter Lynch. You ever heard of him?
Yeah.
He's an investor. He made like 1,000% returns back in the 70s and 80s. And then went talking in the 90s and stuff like that. But he was already out by that time. I don't know. He's pretty old now. He was a big value investor. So was Warren Buffett. But, it's crazy to think you have Tesla, which is making all-time highs. And then you have Ford, which is, has a negative PE. They lose more money than they make, and they'll pop on earnings too. Basically, fundamental investing, value investing is dead. It does not work at all. That's what I'm researching this year.
So,
I'm actually
do you
looking into
think with like
fundamental
the
investing.
internet and now people, the whole Robinhood Stash app, the fact that like the average Joe can at the push of a button and invest in things that they just like is maybe the root cause of why things are so out of norm on normal, maybe 30 years ago when people looked at business sheets, accounting sheets to evaluate a company versus now it's just like, hey, I like it, I'm buying it.
I think that plays into it. I think that plays into the irrationality. I think that plays into why value investing doesn't work anymore. Um, I don't question it, but at the same time, I know that all these things. I mean, when I look at a chart of the S&P, and I see it just going up, 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 I don't bet against it. But I've seen enough hypes to know they all end the same way, which
Yeah.
is
Well, those pullbacks are pretty. Man, I tell you what. After seeing a few, um, since March, right, and then on the way up, when it will travel up, but when it pulls back, it pulls back. You
yes.
know,
I'm
and
I'm afraid
Tesla's
for
like that
that to
too.
happen.
Tesla has those nasty pullbacks, and Bitcoin is volatile as fuck. Any of those
Bitcoin
currencies.
has in its history 80% pullbacks.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for me, I'm starting to realize like, okay, cool. Look for these nasty pullbacks, let them clear out, take everybody out, and then look for some entries. But
That doesn't work.
I know some of these other guys though, man, are just
Let me talk. That
getting
doesn't
eaten
work.
up.
Because even me in March, I bought a couple of companies that I've been watching for years, but I didn't throw all my money and mortgage the house into the stock market. Even though now in retrospect that was the thing to do.
Hmm.
The problem with stocks going down or any asset price going down is that no one's buying it, including you. And so a lot of people are like sitting back and saying like, "Oh, I'm going to buy it on a pullback," or "I'm going to buy it when it crashes." You just can't rely on yourself to do that.
Not even just throw a little bit at it, because that's what I've been
You can
doing.
throw a little
Just
bit,
throw
but
a little
a
bit at
little
it.
bit's not going to make a difference.
It does for
Like
me.
you gotta
A little bit at a time.
It
Here
does,
and there.
but it does, but you can't rely on yourself to pick the bottom by any means because the in March of last year the world was coming to an end. Like everyone was going to die of COVID. Everyone was going to die. Like the economy was never going to recover. And then as it was recovering, as the stock market was recovering, we were going to have a second wave. You remember that?
Yeah.
And then that second wave never came, and it just was a V-shaped recovery.
Well, I ain't gonna lie, man. I feel like that second wave did come because
But the stock market didn't
yeah,
bounce again.
because that's when, remember when it first hit? I didn't know anybody that had it.
Right.
But this over the tail of the last end, October, November, uh, September, October, November. You know, dude, I know so many people that are getting it left and right.
Yeah,
You know?
people are like the fear of it is beginning to wane.
For sure, and that's the thing. I think people are realizing. Maybe some of them were a little more severe in the beginning too. People talked about that strain kind of, morphing or whatever. But
Well, of course, that's what
herd
2021.
mentality, all this stuff, yada yada. But the thing is, most people. I've only had one person that I know that had to be hospitalized.
Mm-hmm.
Had like a pneumonia version of it. But everybody else, man, there's like, yeah, a couple days. It sucked.
Yeah,
And
I've
I
got.
think more people complain about the side effects a month later than they did the
Yeah.
actual couple days of going through it.
I do have a family member in the hospital right now. It's
Mm.
my cousin-in-law's
And what is it?
mom.
Pneumonia, lung related? Like, what's it?
Well, I just know she's on a respirator, but she is getting better according to what I heard
Okay.
over the holiday. So yeah, I mean it's real, but I think that as people become more faced with fear, you develop a sort of resistance to it, and that's why you're seeing people care less and less. But I do hear about all these new strains, which is a really kind of a bullshit thing to talk about because, of course, viruses mutate. It reminds me so much of the 2000s with the whole terrorism color system.
Oh, not Y2K?
Well, that was instantaneous. It's not a big deal anymore. But yeah, I mean, dude,
Or the mines in
mass
2012.
mass panics and fears are just going to be with us forever.
I
The
definitely
good
thought this was a new war fear.
new warfare.
Yeah, like new war on fear, like the drug war, the war on drugs, the war on
Oh,
terrorism. Now it's the war on the pandemic. It's this
yeah.
fear to fear. You need
Well,
fear.
war is a integral part of our mass psychology too, and so when you invoke that, you try to get people all riled up to band together to fight this common threat. yes, it's very useful in that sense. But the good news is we know what we have to worry about for the next few years. I don't think we're going to come up with anything to be afraid about for the next 2 or 3 years. It's going to be just COVID.
Well, you're going to take the vaccine, right?
Oh, that discussion. What am I going to do by that? I just figured that I would have gotten it by now, like you did. But I haven't actually gotten tested or anything because I haven't been
You
sick.
don't do anything. You don't go out. You don't go anywhere. You don't.
No,
hang
I
anything.
go out. I go to the gym like 2, 3, 4 times a week.
Oh, that's dangerous.
I went to your place of business.
That's dangerous.
Back when you were, I know.
That's dangerous too.
I lick as many banisters as I can. But still, so far I haven't got it yet. And maybe it's just because diet, exercise, and
Maybe your
good.
what is it? Systematic.
That's the thing. Maybe.
Because my brother had it and he, didn't even know he had it.
It's weird. I don't know. I'm lucky to be young. I'll say that.
Yeah.
And I'm healthy. I exercise, like I said, sleep as much as I can. What was amazing to me is no one mentioned that as ways to prevent it. It was
sleep.
Oh, it was stay inside, wear a mask, don't interact with people. That's how you stay
That
healthy.
whole mask wearing thing was an interesting. It was. It was weird how it drew this line, especially in the political stance. Like if you were one of those people that wore the mask versus the person that didn't want to wear the mask, and is like kind of clearly told you what side of the political market you were on.
If today, when I've been driving, today being a voting day, if I see you wearing a mask in your car, I know how you're going to vote. It's just pretty clear to me. But that's not that hard to explain. It's collectivism versus personal freedom.
Yeah,
it really is. Yeah. And I don't really want to impugn people with being more neurotic and having a certain leaning because that doesn't really correlate as well. But it definitely has to do with collectivism versus personal freedom. And I understand more about history now than I did before coronavirus, like how people can become incredibly convinced that a particular social norm is right and just and moral, and anyone that doesn't participate in it is immoral overnight. I didn't understand that. I focus a lot. I watch a lot about World War II and the history of the countries of Europe and how they kind of progressed culturally, but I didn't understand it until this year. So that's one good takeaway from 2020 is I understand now how people can become incredibly convinced of things.
Wow. Yeah, this one. What a fucking year, dude.
Mm-hmm.
What a year on so many levels to like see people for who they are, the psychological, just we've been playing this fake facade, and then all of a sudden this brings along, and you find out who people really are deep down, and it's interesting because it was the year of reflection, honestly. If you think about it, like
people have plenty of time at home to think.
And they really, I don't know if everybody necessarily reflected on so much of who they are, but I definitely got to see another side of myself and see people for who they are.
What did you learn about yourself?
What did I learn about myself?
Yeah.
I like being at home. You didn't have to beat me down to stay at home and be introverted and do all that stuff. I'm really jaded toward people, man. I really like to have a positive outlook, and I like to think the glass is, half full. But it just reassured what I already knew from the service industry, just how selfish we are. How much our ego is in the way, and everybody was an expert on COVID. Everybody was an expert on why to wear the mask, why not. People that didn't want to wear the mask were, you should take that mask off. And I'm like, dude, I chose to wake up and wear this mask. Like, nobody forced me to put on this mask, dude. You know what I mean? Like, and it just, it just. I'm not going to be surprised if there's a reckoning coming overall. Just
like what? A reckoning of what?
Well, there's a sense of arrogance, right? So in my humility, I'm free, right? And there's a point where you can be overconfident, over conceited, all that stuff, and life has this funny way of like checking you in this awkward humility moment, right? And I talk about living in the know, living in the now. It's a constant, always. No matter how much you practice a sport, there's nothing like being under the lights trying to hit that run that's needed. Not a home run, but you're down and the bases are loaded and you're, 3 balls, 2 strikes, and you can't practice that. That's
Mm.
living in the know. You're in that moment, You're either the hero or you're embarrassed, Like there's this weird in that humility you are free. And what I mean by that is, you can either own that moment or it can be something that you resent, right? Some form of regret and resentment. And I just feel like even America as a whole, you can look at the media, you can look at the type of content they put out. It's just this vanity, narcissism. There's a reckoning for that.
You gotta like really fill me in because I try to avoid as much mass media as I
I
can.
try to avoid as much,
Yeah.
but it's sometimes it gets to the point where you can, like, even so, looking back at coronavirus, just the pettiness that went back and forth. Trump amplifies this pettiness, and it's crazy.
Oh yeah, no more
I'm
Trump.
not mad at Trump.
No more
I don't,
Trump
well,
this
I
year.
don't know, man. You got
I know, man. I got a
Trump.
friend
You
of
got
mine.
some.
I got a friend.
You got some Trump people, man, that think, there's a lot. These Trump people, they are not letting go, man. They are just like him, man. They are not letting go.
I was hoping that they would be the better people, but people are
But
apparently people.
again, going back to this pettiness, right? Going back to, and both sides were guilty of it. CNN, they got their feelings hurt when they got called fake news, and they just ended up being just as petty as Trump. And it's like somebody's got to be the bigger man, and
I don't know, man. Do they really need to, or do they need to have people
listen, man.
watch
Let me tell
their
you something. How
shows?
disappointing it was to realize these guys are running our country, and I've seen high schoolers act more mature. I got a hostess that's 16. I got another one that's 17. They're amazing. Their maturity level is off the charts. We were just talking about it the other day. You put them side by side, some of these politicians, and it's just like, what the? It's really, and how much is that for the cameras? How much is that the jockey in position for tabloids, media, clickbait, blah, blah, blah? Because you don't understand, like, do we truly know on the inside what they're doing? Is that a form of manipulation that they've learned through these tactics over the years to maneuver the mob, the crowd into a direction because they know that's what they like to feed into? Because we love drama. You know what I mean? We love our soap operas, whether it be Days of Our Lives or WWE. You know what I mean?
I think they're playing WWE. I think is a perfect comparison.
Yeah.
I think they're playing a part. I think they're playing a part in a play, and we get very interested in it. And I think people get way too involved in politics. Now, me, of all people, I love to spar with politics with people because at the end of the day, you're going to beat somebody's face in over how wrong they are, but it's not going to change anything. And who the president is not going to change my life, or even who my senator is not going to change my life. And people need to focus more on their own lives and what they can change in it instead of getting so. But I think that's part of the problem is that they take politics as sort of a proxy for personal change. It's like if I believe the right things, I don't have to do the right things.
Yeah.
And going back to your thing about the kids, man. There's one thing in history that I've seen from reading accounts that every single older generation typically thinks the younger generation is absolute dog shit. And I remember reading specifically about how like the people that came through World War I, whatever generation that was in the 1920s, 1930s, they all thought that the kids of their day were like just going to be absolutely spoiled. The roaring 20s, they were all just, drinking and dancing and everything. And then they went and fought World War II. And they ended up being like the greatest generation. So maybe children are the future. They always are, basically. It's kind of a tautology, but
Well, it's to carry on a lineage, right? Without the children, you can't pass certain things on, right? First and foremost, your genes. Second, heritage, culture, things like that. And
they're always trying to change it. That's the thing. That's the role of kids. Like
that statement where you're
to-
talking about, like where we think the next generation is just, but it's weird because even now with my nephews, I look back and I think about where I was at their age. And it's just, man, at the end of the day, just there's this thing about growing up and maturing and learning these life lessons to get to that point where you look back and look at your parents and go, damn, y'all are right. Like,
Well, there's
and then
two
you
there's
look at the
two
younger
sides to that.
generation, you're like, oh, man, if I could just only,
Yeah, if you
like, oh,
they'll learn.
what you think is so important right now is so not even going to be relevant in 30 years.
It goes back to this thing that I remember I talk about all the time where like I had a cousin, we were like a birthday party or something like that. Little kid had like a little candle and he's like 2 years old and hey, blow it out, all that kind of stuff. And he's like getting closer to it and he starts to reach his finger out and all the women are like, no, like trying to jump across the table to stop him. But like me, my uncle, my cousins, the men, we're like, he'll learn. Like he won't do it again.
Yeah.
And that's the way I see the next generation. Dude. In my Discord, man, I get so frustrated with them. I try to help them so much, and I gotta realize, they're grown men.
Yeah.
They may be in their early 20s, they may be idiots, but they're making mistakes that's hopefully going to define them in some way. I guess it's now good to make those kind of mistakes instead of later. But yeah, especially when it comes to. Wow, is this a trading podcast or what? I mean, especially, but no, when it comes to that, I mean, I think that I heard something the other day. Gray hair goes a long way when it comes to like investing and things like that. And I think that as you get older, you do learn more and you learn to avoid. It's mainly just fucking up and fixing the problem, and that's man. A lot of people need to understand that. Even I sometimes.
Well, to reel it back in, I think trading, if you are a new trader, right? If you are even an old trader and you haven't figured this out, because you can correlate this with life lessons, the biggest thing is that you're going to take losses. You're probably going to take more losses than you do winners.
But I don't want to.
Okay, right. Because the society has set us up to where we all want to be like Mayweather and be 50-0.
Winners.
We all want to be the World Series champion, all that stuff. So, if you can come to grasp and be more realistic with your expectations, then you realize that's what life is a series of losses. And based on where you're at, when you look back at those resentments, those regrets, it's based on how you learned it and evolved from those losses, Like I was talking about that one time I blew up at work. It's the only time I've probably blown up at work. But, it really was a moment that I was like, damn, how did I get to that? Like, what were the elements around that? Because I'm always the most coolest, even kill person in the room. But this one time, I took a loss. And it was like almost everybody was waiting on the sidelines to be like, ha ha, you finally fucked up. You finally foo, And it was like, that's how I felt. I was like, man, get off my back. Like, come on, because, I showed I was human, like, give me a break because I'm so sympathetic to everybody else.
That's why a lot of trading gurus, they just put out that they just win because, I mean, they want to present that image.
Well, dude, I like this podcast and I like the relationship you and I have because we do talk about, that we're not fucking gurus. We're not, billionaires.
Definitely not.
I was actually on the phone today with somebody I was helping just download a Thinkorswim app. He's like, man, why aren't you retired yet? I'm like, dude, it's not. I think you said this. It's the hardest way to make the easiest money possible.
It's a hard way to make an easy living, yeah.
Yeah.
Hardest way to make it easy.
And I was, I was trying to talk to this guy, and he's just that same scenario when you talk to beginner traders, man. They
don't understand.
They don't yet,
I got to share a story about it. And I'm not going to name names or even name the instrument, but I talked to a beginner trader last month. This was before the crypto run happened, really. It's been running all year, but he wanted to get into trading, and he had one particular instrument that he wanted to trade. And I'm not going to tell somebody not to do something because I'm humble enough to know that like I could tell them that's going to be dog shit, and then it'd go up 4 or 5 times, and they'll be like, well, you told me not to do it. So now I'm responsible. So I tried to explain to him, like, okay, let's take what you want to put into this, and let's maybe only put about a fourth of what you want to. You want to go 100 all in, balls to the wall. Let's dial that back a little bit. And
There's something about having that. Ugh.
well, now here was the
It's
deal.
thrilling, bro.
Here was no, it wasn't the thrill. Here was the deal. When I told him that he needs to, okay, he'd already actually, when we talked, he'd already put all his money into this one particular thing. And I said to him, like, oh, okay, all right, well, that's not how I wanted you to start this, but okay, we'll work with that. So what you need to do now is you need to tell me where you're going to get out if it goes against you. And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, this thing could go against you. He was like, no, I've read up on the technology. I know the development team.
We're going to Mars, baby, just like Elon Musk. Yeah.
The idea that he would, and whenever I was talking to him, every time I tried to explain these things to him, he's like, well, what pattern should I look for? Like, I'm looking for a wedge or I'm looking for a moving average. I was like, no. You understand this. Trading is about taking L's. It's about managing losses. And it didn't sink in.
And not to cut you off, manage risk.
What about it?
Instead of managing
trading.
losses, I like to say managing risk.
Well, his risk was 100%. And I said, like, well, you need to pick a point where you're going to get out. And I think he picked it while he was on the phone with me. And then, he didn't stick to it. And this particular thing had a single day drawdown of 50%. And by saying that, people know what I'm talking about. But I try so hard to help people to get into their heads, because at this point, when I see something doing a parabolic run, I'm like, okay, y'all have fun with that. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm a contrarian. My job is to say no. But people see that, and there's something in the human psyche, the beginning trader human psyche, that makes them think that because something's gone up 200 or 300, 400%, that they are the next people to get that exact same or not better. The stories they tell themselves to justify it, and they don't realize they're taking on just a tremendous amount of risk. Maybe they just need to take that L to learn.
Note to traders, by the time it's done it's too late.
Well, the thing is, it's not, because people are getting rewarded right now in Bitcoin and all the other cryptocurrencies.
Yeah. You got people holding forever.
People bought
How about the people that have been holding from way back when, from the first spike, and had to hold on to that?
Well, they're smart now.
Go through that whole. If they held on,
yeah,
right?
the people
That's
that bought
a lot of turmoil they had to go
Dude,
through. Right?
If you said to somebody, "I'll sell you Bitcoin at 19,000 right now," they'd be like, "Yeah, I'll take it." And that was the high from 2017. Yeah. People that bought at the high now, well, they're geniuses because it's over 30. It's that's why you just don't doubt it. And there's a lot of bad lessons that are being learned right now in crypto, and I'm not going to tell people when they're going to get their lesson, but they're going to get their lesson. The one thing that I've kind of towards the end here is, crypto has been going on and people I know have been getting liquidated. Like, you don't get to win. You look at that chart and you say, I want to buy that. I want that Lamborghini. I want to retire on this.
I want a garage with books on my shelves next to my Lamborghinis.
You just don't. People don't get to win. They don't get to win. You may win for a few days, a few weeks, a few months, but the problem is the people, once they maybe take a little, they dip their toe in. Mm-hmm. Maybe about 100, 200, 300, $400. Mm-hmm. They double that, triple that, quadruple that, maybe even 1,000 it. They don't stop. And you mentioned that when we first started.
Yeah.
The thing is, there's something about the human condition that makes you just not know when to quit. Yeah. And so I try to help people, try to make them avoid it, but I think you just have to go through it. It's just like the kids. It's just like the 16, 17-year-olds. Yeah. They got it's like my little cousin. He's got to touch that candle.
It's so scary, dude.
You got to get burned. And then if you come back and keep trading, now you can move forward. But there's a lot of people that got into the markets in 2020. And I think this is kind of going to be kind of like the theme. A lot of these Robinhood traders, a lot of these new crypto traders, they got in 2020 and they're making money now. No doubt about it. And they're going to get wrecked. And then that 5% of people that takes their loss, licks their wounds, and comes back and keeps doing it for the passion of it, they're the ones that are going to be that 5% of traders that succeed.
Dude,
So,
I'm with you on that, man. I definitely have been changing my, even with my retirement portfolio, you know, educating myself a lot more on how like hedge funds do it and so on, sector rotations. Like the market's forever changing. You know, you got to be able to adapt. You got to be able to hedge yourself. To jump on these things that are like Tesla and Bitcoin are cool if you're in it.
oh, they're awesome.
It's like the icing on the cake plus the cherry and the blowjob, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what about everything else, right? Like it's like one of those things is like that can't be your only thing you're gonna do. Like I'm gonna be rich off of Bitcoin, you know? Like
I don't think people think past that. I think they hate their jobs. They don't make enough money. They're in debt. They don't want to like pay off their debt that's at like 15%.
yeah,
They think that, well, if I just make 20% or if I make 100%, then I don't have to worry about my financial obligations. That's really the story they tell themselves. And
diversify.
yeah, I mean, I wish that it was that simple, but it's not. Again, you're not trading.
Diversifying simple,
Oh,
or just trying to explain to people to diversify.
well, the problem. No. See, that's not. See, I talk to a lot of people now, man. Diversification is not the problem. The problem is telling people that 100% return in a few months or next week is not real.
Yeah.
That's the problem that I have is like, because they're like, oh, well, I see this person on Wall Street bets that, they bought a Tesla call a year ago and now they have like $15 million. Like, why can't that be me? Like, it's got to be easy. Same reason they put lottery people on TV, to make you think that you have a chance. It's a selection bias. But that's the problem, man. It's like if somebody came to me and said, "Hey, I've got this thing that's going to give you like a 12% return on your money by next year," give me. But that's not enough for people.
Yeah.
Like people are like 12%. Like I'm not going to get rich on 12%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Compound interest is not fast enough for me.
Well,
like,
so going back to that 2% I was talking about, right? You know, all right, so you risk 2%. So what's your 3 to 1 on that?
6%.
Right. So once I put that piece together, that's the other thing, right? So now not only was I taking the 2%, I knew what my risk was. And what I love about trading is once you grasp, to understand your reward, you have to understand your risk. So now I understand my risk. Now I understand my reward. So it helps take out that whole like shooting for the moon mentality, right? Like capture the profit, and if it keeps going, oh well, at least
Leave it alone.
6% is
Definitely leave it
fucking
alone.
great, dude. You know what I mean? Like for a retail trader who doesn't have the in,
Mike,
who's just trading off a Thinkorswim,
Mike,
6% is great.
I hate to point this out to you, but you're approaching, a certain age, and most of the people that are getting on this Robinhood app, like they can't imagine being your age.
I got Robinhood.
Okay,
app.
I do too. Like that's why
you know what I got? I got $1 invested in Tesla just for the hell of it.
Hell yeah, fractional shares, man. I'm just saying, like these people that are in their 20s. Like I was in my 20s, I didn't have any concept of things, but they really don't understand the passage of time. I didn't understand the passage of time, but they don't understand. Like if you put your money into something that's going to give you like even a 7%, 9% return in 10 years, you're going to have. I mean, you're going to almost double, if not double, your money.
Yeah.
But that doesn't do them any good now because they need to buy their private jet and their house on the beach next year because they need it
It's
now.
so funny you say that. Somebody in the chat room said something about I was looking at Royal Caribbean RCL cruise line. I've been keeping an eye on all those things that were affected, the hotels, restaurants, all this stuff. I think those are going to be the slower comeback because of COVID. And either way, I threw a chart. I was like, man, this fits a couple of criterias. And I was like, man, I feel like, I need to pay for my cruise this year. I need to go on a cruise.
You been on a cruise before?
It's been forever and a day. Yeah. Everybody's like, it's funny. There's people that like really love cruises, and then there's the other side where people. It's not.
I got a buddy that really
I don't really
loves
find
cruises,
like in the middle. Like I'm like, all right. It's more like they either go on cruises a lot or they're like, fuck cruises. You know,
I don't want to be trapped on a boat.
I would like to go on a cruise. I had fun when I was a kid when I went on a cruise. I wouldn't mind doing it again, but I would like to either do it with a significant other or a group of like guys. And we're just
Well, I
gonna
mean,
go
that'd be no
fucking
problem for you, ladies.
shut
Man.
it down. So, but you know, either way, I looked at this chart. Somebody made a comment. He's like, "Why don't you just buy the yacht?" And I was just like, honestly, it's funny because that was a yacht was like kind of like my status symbol that I had on my wall, and now it's like, I feel like it's just gonna be another one of those things that just like sits on a port somewhere that I barely use.
I think it doesn't matter how expensive the boat is. The adage still goes like the two happiest days of boat ownership are when you buy it and when you sell it.
That same shit. It's kind of like my RV, man. It was like the day, you know.
Like a good redneck, I've had a pontoon, and yeah, you spend a lot of time making sure that you don't get stuck out in the water. That's for sure.
Oh my god, dude, man. Yeah. So speaking of kind of that too, man, we're kind of getting a little long-winded. This actually been a good kind of just chat of the chat, but
It's a slow start, but yeah, we gotta go. You know what it was? We need to like actually get down about like to here and then start recording.
Yo, man, I love it, man. Somebody made a comment about that. I was like, I don't drink. They were like, oh, I saw you on your podcast drinking. I was like, yeah, but that's different. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna have a shot here. But so what do you think? Fuck Bitcoin. Fuck Tesla.
Fuck Bitcoin, fuck Tesla.
What's some more like long-term ideas you're looking into? Like, you think? Let's talk about recovery stocks. You think some of these airlines? You think some of these cruise lines, hotels, Marriott? Like, Marriott's done really well for me.
It's a very simple answer to that. What is the least favorite sector right now? What is the most depressed sector right now? What are the most
utilities?
What I don't know if I say utilities. I mean, utilities are going to be like kind of like utilities are going to be based around like people's perception of recessions.
Traveling is definitely not gonna.
Traveling is true, but what is really like one of the least favorite things, and has been for like about 2 years now? What hit like an all-time negative low in 2020?
I'm embarrassed. I don't know.
Energy.
That's not utilities.
No, utilities are going to be more like a dividend long-term play for people. Honestly, like it's weird because I've heard different theories about it, where the obvious answer is that the price of oil is going to go up, and so
it's
energy
been
stocks,
trying to make a comeback, dude.
but it stays low. Yeah,
that crude oil is trying so hard.
The contrarian play is to look at energy stocks, but the contrarian play is to know that everyone's looking at energy stocks and they're not going to recover, and to put it into EV because that's the future. I don't know if I buy that or not, because it's weird because a lot of these states are outlawing by 2035. I think New Jersey, California, New York, Massachusetts. I may be wrong, but they're trying to outlaw the sale of any gas burning vehicles, and that's not that long. So that's kind of interesting. It's kind of driving some of the bullishness of EV, but at the same time, I think they're kind of denying economics that, oil is still the cheapest way to run our economy.
Well, let's talk about this. This is something I didn't know. Oh, God, there was a YouTube video. It was a great video on oil in itself. I wish I could remember it. It was one of the few like YouTube videos I liked. But I didn't realize how much stuff is really made out of oil. Like you just can't like stop. Go to electric vehicles. Like, let's take a look at electric vehicles in itself, right? Let's take a Tesla. The tires are oil. The plastic is oil.
You're still gonna need oil.
So it just like
just not for energy.
It's amazing once you like that's when I was woken to the fact that that's why some people take their bags to the grocery store because they don't want to use the plastic because that's oil.
At the end of the day, what is oil? What is its main weight?
Hey, if you really want to know, I got a great song not to play myself. When I had
Dinosaur
this band
blood.
once, yes, you. Good for you, bro.
I remember I had that
Good
CD in my
for
car.
you.
Yeah.
Good for you, dinosaur blood.
Well,
yeah.
it's carbon.
Yeah.
And what is this problem that we have in the atmosphere? It's carbon. I think that in the future, we just got to trust our own human ingenuity that we will be able to
plant more plants.
Well, no. We won't plants, yes, but we'll be able to actually suck out the carbon. Because what makes a plant grow? What makes a tree grow? What makes up like the mass of the tree?
Besides like the sun and carbon.
Carbon. It takes the energy from the sun. It pulls the carbon dioxide from the air, and that's actually what makes up the bulk of it, like the trace elements it pulls out of the ground. See, when I was young, I used to think like, oh, it pulls the ground up
Carbon,
into
carbs,
it's
yeah.
carbon, and so all the stuff that we make from oil and stuff is really just the easy way for us to get carbon and then put the atoms into a nice lattice that is stable. And I think we'll figure out a way to do it.
What's your because that was something we've talked a few times about on this podcast is the electric vehicle. That's this weird craze, right? Like everybody's excited about Tesla, and then there's the whole Nicolo,
Well, that was bullshit.
right? And then the Neo, and then but that whole movement was like, it was like this false like hype. It's like, oh, but Tesla's doing
It's not
good,
a
all
false
these other
hype.
ones-
It is the future.
but it's not yet, right? Like it's premature, maybe
It's,
like some
it's,
kind
it's
of
speculative, yes.
right. So
I think
you got
it's
all
a-
these people trying to dive in.
Here's how I feel about that. I think you need to go back and you need to read this book written almost 100 years ago called How to Trade in Stocks by Jesse Livermore. In it, he talks about turn of the century, not this century, but the one 18 to 1900, railroad stocks, transportation. How there was this huge bull run in the east-west, the Pacific Railroad. They got up to $185 a share back when that would buy you a damn house. And then he even mentions in the book, it's in the first chapter, you don't have to read that far, where he talks about it, where there was this huge bull run that he saw in this transportation sector, and now those stocks are trading at pennies. Look at the .com. There were all these .com stocks, and there's really only one that we can think of off the top of our heads that succeeded, and that was Amazon. So of all these EV companies that are coming around, I'm not saying they'll all fail, but they're not all going to succeed. And whatever prices they're trading at right now, one of the things that there's a lot of little phrases that I hate in trading. One is, this time it's different. Another one is long-term hold. He even talks about that in the book, how people thought that, this was something they were going to hold forever. It's one of the lessons he wrote down 100 years ago. You can't just be a long-term investor and think that you're safe. You're not. You have to watch your investments. And so, a lot of people that buy these really parabolic runs, they excuse their stupidity by saying like, okay, if I buy it at 50 and it's up 400, 500% year to date, that's okay because I'm going to hold this for 10 years. And unfortunately, bringing it back to Bitcoin, if you bought at 19,000, now you are a genius. And so nobody learned any lessons. And I don't know anything because obviously I'm wrong about that.
There's nothing wrong with being cautious in the market because even I've, on my monthly analysis, even coming up to the top of that range, I was like, just be careful. It's the top of the range, and then look for a pullback if it breaks out. No worries.
Oh, dude, that's been such a meme. You know that guy from Office Space? You remember Office Space, right? You remember the guy that like spoke like this?
Michael, yeah.
No, the guy that had the stapler.
Yeah.
The meme is basically him sitting at his desk, said like, I was told there would be pullbacks, as it just keeps on going up.
But the crazy thing is like the joke could be on everybody in the end because there could be that major volatility pullback.
Oh well, the dollar's excuse me, the
know?
Bitcoin's going to replace the dollar, dude. So it's clearly going to be
I
$1
thought I
million
said that earlier,
each.
and you didn't agree with that. I told you it was going to be the new gold. The new standard crypt blockchain, bro.
Okay.
They just got to set up the scenario, the chaos, the pandemic, the dollar crashing, and then they're going to secure its stability through blockchain, bro. And listen, man.
I think
listen.
you're throwing out. I think you're doing.
Listen,
we need
Linda.
buzzword bingo.
Listen, Linda, you can't. What would you rather have faith in when you're dealing with trade between Earth and Mars? Because that's coming, bro. We gotta think light years ahead, not just right now.
We got to find something on Mars that's worth something to go get. That's the problem.
It's just like everything else. It's just hype.
Well, no, I mean, we actually have to find something economical that will grow or we mine from Mars that makes it. The reason the Americas are what they are is because we could actually grow food
Bet
here.
on Elon, man. Just bet on Elon. I tell you what, you know what would make Mars fucking amazing?
What?
Is an asteroid headed towards Earth.
That is probably the
Now we've just
only.
created our
No,
pandemic.
that's probably dude. When everyone was worried about this pandemic, I was like, okay, if this was the worst that happened, it's not that bad because it's not war
Mm-hmm.
and it's not asteroid. Like people were like, oh, this is going to destroy the economy. No, the thing that destroys the economy is when you like lose the infrastructure. Like the pandemic, if anything, it killed off all the boomers and released their wealth into the world.
You insensitive fuck.
The
Let me say this,
roads are
though.
still there.
Seriously, you brought up war, though. I want you to think about. You and I haven't really like been through anything major. My dad was in Vietnam, World War II.
He was in Vietnam.
Yeah, he flew helicopters.
Oh wow, that's
My
dangerous.
grandfather was an airplane pilot in World War II.
My grandfather built tanks. He didn't go to war. But yeah.
Either way, if you take those, I think Vietnam was probably, and this is not to downplay any of the Persian Gulf War, because any war in general, I fucking hate.
It's pointless.
Anytime you send our kids off to a grown man's war,
Just
they
real
won't
quick,
fight for
the fact that
themselves.
we can go to Vietnam right now on vacation and have a great
I'm
time
just saying,
just shows how pointless war is.
Vietnam, I felt like was kind of like the really last, like, major, like, holy fuck, we really got our asses kicked. But either way, World War II, Vietnam. Now we're in, we lived through Persian Gulf. But even take all that, even because I think the Vietnam was probably the last time you saw, you had the civil rights, all that stuff. Now move forward and look at the history of the wars from then to now and how people reacted to it. Take this pandemic and look how people reacted to that.
With fear?
That's
You
what I'm
mean-
saying. Just overall, just look what happened during this pandemic, because we had essentially a little bit of a replica of what the Vietnam was. We had a little bit of our own civil rights kind of epidemic. We had our
They wanted to be.
That's what I'm saying. But in this weird pandemic, I've seen more people react. You know what I mean? More of a reaction than I did during 9/11, during the whole war of terrorism, right? I mean, we all kind of got patriotic. But during the pandemic, you really saw like division. You really saw people get out. You really saw, holy shit, I'm not going nowhere today. Because these fuckers are crazy out here.
I think the difference there is in stories. I think that we have different stories that we tell ourselves. And I think that might have been the same problem with Vietnam. Was, we had this story that was coming off of World War II that we were the noble, justified people because we saw what we were fighting against.
Policing the world, yeah.
Policing the world. But then we were like, we were shocked that, wait a minute, we aren't the arbiters of justice. We are actually, in some cases, the bad guys. And that kind of shook us and out of this, we are absolutely right. And so what we're coming into now is, I think, the progression of that where we don't share the same stories about America anymore. You've got people that want us to, believe that American exceptionalism, that we are a moral country, that we are founded upon freedoms. And then you have these other people that want us to say, oh, we're founded upon slavery and oppression and stealing. And, I talked about, I think, around the Thanksgiving thing about that. Like, I personally don't think that putting out the narrative, the story that we are evil helps anybody at all. But the story that we're all, kind and just and we should do everything is what got us into Vietnam. So I honestly see all the conflict that we have as the yin and the yang. I think that we're really just we're fighting amongst ourselves, creating strife to find that new balance, really. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah, because we're fucking bored, bro.
Yeah, we've been bored at home all day.
America's spoiled, man. We don't have, you look at the world and countries that are really struggling, and it's like they have more understanding of value and culture than we do because we're just spoiled. We're spoiled little brats all around.
Well, it works for us. Speaking of culture, and when I've noticed this because especially in our generation, we've had the opportunity to really more interact with like first generation immigrants. Like you and I, we were born here, and our families were born here, so we're like American. And now we have Americans that were born in another country, that they're here, but they're Americans too. But they still have these old cultural ties. Like for one of them in particular that really sticks out to me is how they are expected to take care of their parents.
Oh, you mean like family? That is not an American
Right.
way anymore.
We
That
put
is
our
you're
parents
divorced, a
in.
single parent.
Well, no, I'm talking about taking care of elders. Like they, I remember working with a guy many years ago, who related to me that there's this drama because he was like an only child. He was a first generation immigrant, and he was married. He had a kid. He said, "I want to have my own house. I want to have my own life, but my dad expects me." As part of our cultural tradition to take care of him. This is why I was born, he tells me. And it's a big deal in this culture because American culture is different.
Yeah.
We're very much more isolated. It's very different, and that's where a lot of the conflict I think
Because of
comes
the
into.
wealth that's created here, because
Because
that's you got to understand where that
outsource
comes
that
from,
care.
right?
Yeah.
It's building generational wealth, things like that. Building generational wealth is not necessarily just having a lot of money in the bank account. It's just having family.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that whole adage, that old value of taking care of, because you've built this family to kind of help get you through the generations. Now, you got fucking Robin Hood traders that are richer than their own parents. You
were telling me before we even got on the podcast about how much, and I agree, like you appreciate family more this year.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because of 2020's unique things. I don't know if it's because I'm getting older and I'm seeing
both. Yeah.
I think it is a combination of both.
Yeah.
But I definitely I keep more pictures of my family. I try to spend more time with them this year. I think that's one upside coming out of 2020, honestly. So
bringing the people that matter together more.
Yeah, because I noticed that about 2008 when we had a get together at my grandmother's house, and that year it was Easter. It was when everything was going to crap in 2008, and I had these two uncles that I hadn't seen. I mean, I knew I'd see them periodically, but I remember that particular holiday we got together as a big giant family because they were small business owners and they were really worried, and they sat around, they talked about it, and it's because they were scared, and when they were afraid economically, because they were very successful business people, they went to their family, and I kind of knew it then, and it was true that would never happen again because things went back to normal and they went, they're isolated. But it's interesting when we run into crisis that we do turn back to family because we know we can trust them above other people. So,
fuck. There you go. So wrapping this up, because we definitely
I'm going good.
I would say the theme of this podcast is we've gotten away from talking about stocks a little bit.
That's fine.
And but also got on a philosophical. All right. And at the end of the day, you can reel that back in and say trading can really help you be philosophical.
I think you just appreciate the profits that you have, both financial and otherwise, coming out of 2020. And
true. Like you said, family is not necessarily, it's not about wealth, but it's also about the people around you.
It is a wealth. And I think people just need to sit back and chill this month or this quarter and just see how it happens.
You mean chill more than being sent home on a stimulus check, paid vacation? Because that was pretty cool. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, just
socialism has never looked so good in my life because they fucking sold me, and I'm a Republican at heart, but I ain't going to lie. I got a taste of that.
Do you enjoy your 60-day trial?
I'm just saying, bro, I need a sugar daddy. You know what I mean? Like a sugar mama, you name it. If that's what that was like, bro, you sold me, man. That was probably and I'm a workaholic, and somebody forced me to sit down. And they said, hey, not only am I going to pay you, I'm going to pay you just a little bit more than you make when you were working, and you got to do absolutely nothing to sit at home. Oh, my God, where can I sign up for this again? It ain't going to ever happen again. I'll take it. I love it. It was great. I will take that over fucking this run on Bitcoin any day of the week. You know what I mean? You can have your Bitcoin. Give me that again.
Yeah.
Give me that.
At the end of the day, when people were like trying to make all this money off Bitcoins because they're wanting to get financial freedom, but
yeah.
the government gave that to you. How was it? I mean,
It was
people
great.
liked it.
Even more solidifies why everybody should have voted for Andrew Yang. I'm just saying.
Poor Andrew Yang.
He said it, and they
he
stole
set it
his
in
idea.
motion, and they took his idea.
They did. They did. And I really liked his whole reasoning behind it. Trump was like, "Fuck that. Let's just print it." You know, like
As long as my name is on the checks, as long as my signature is on the checks. All right, you ready to go?
yeah,
All right.
dude. I don't know what we're cheersing to with empty
Yeah.
glasses because that's 20.